I do want to spend a bit of time reflecting on the job All Abilities Job Match program with our QDN inclusion consultants who are here with us today, and that's Ben Noonan, Josh Marshall, and Mel, who you've already heard from. Mel, you've already shared a lot, but feel free to jump in if you like to. One of the things that one of the themes that I feel like have come through really strongly, Ben and Josh, is this idea of the importance of shifting mindsets and attitudes. And so I thought, the first question I have for you is, how can workplaces improve their understanding of disability, which is obviously a big part of shifting mindset? And what impact do you think strong disability awareness has on a business?
Is that a question for us? Or
Yeah.
yeah. Do you want to go, Ben? You were about to talk there, mate.
Ben speaking. I think it's that general disability awareness, and as a lot of people have said, that mindset. I was lucky enough to work with Christy from MCNC a little bit back and forwards, and without knowing much about their intern, it was just very clear that she had that culture. She just gets it. It's a very welcoming workplace. As she mentioned, she didn't go into the nature of the disability as such until that person felt comfortable enough to then speak to her, which seemed like a real win-win, both for the intern and the community. So I think as much awareness as people can have of the different disabilities, and then where maybe to reach out for help, would be a great start.
Danielle speaking. Thanks, Ben. Josh, or Mel, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, Josh speaking. Look, I was just suggesting that lived experience is obviously the best way, the easiest way to be attuned to the needs of those with disability. But when talking or interviewing somebody with disability, it's really important that you have try and focus from a cognitive empathy point of view. So understand the person from what they're trying to achieve, not exactly what you want them to bring to your business, but what they have to offer. People with disability often have to do things differently. So differently isn't necessarily bad. Sometimes it's really good. That's how we can improve workflow and whatnot. So understand what a person does in their day-to-day life and have an open mind, open perspective. Now that was mentioned earlier, but don't attack the situation with your agenda. Obviously, your agenda is important, but the person has qualities to bring. Look beyond their disability, is my point.
It's Danielle speaking. Thank you, Josh, for sharing that. Um, One of the questions too, and it's something that we do a lot in QDN, is co-design. And so I guess my question for you all is, what is co-design? What does it mean to you? And how do you think it can play an important role in improving workplace inclusion and things like policies and procedures and operations?
Um, Josh speaking here. Look, co-design is so important in the workplace, and a lot of the time we overlook those inclusive measures to try and design something that the workplace needs. I've seen many policies and procedures working with different companies where it's very much focused on the organization from a point of view of sick leave, or at times with disability, you might need the extra time for leave that's unexpected. Without co-design, you're not going to understand the person and what they are trying to work through, especially if it's a neurodivergent point of view. They are going to not mention things being scared of losing a role, but working with them from day one is going to have a policy that works with that employee as well as the workplace. I'll hand it over to one of you guys.
Yeah, Ben speaking. It makes me think of some of the work I do on the Gold Coast here with Gold Coast City Council. And if they want to implement, awareness about disability parks, they're at the stage now where they'll bring someone like myself in. They'll have me going through, putting my wheelchair in and out of the car. And that just allows people to understand the different ways that I use these parks and why I need them, and potentially make them, a bit more available. So it's bringing the people in that it's going to affect.
Hi, and it's Mel speaking. Yeah, co-design's a huge passion of mine, and so I think it has many different definitions, but I think getting to the heart of co-design, it's really about having that equal power, that shared empathy and experience to involve people with disability from the very start, before you even think about what can we build, like just having that conversation and go, this is what we're trying to do. What are some ideas? And I think it's really about getting organizations to get people involved right at the very start of a process. So, coming in and being like, okay, this is a workplace, or even asking your disability staff to begin with, what's happening, where can we improve, and actually like building that together instead of and it's important to take it beyond a consultative approach to really a collaboration, engagement, and involvement throughout the process. So I think it's really important that we honour that when we're talking about co-design as well.
It's Danielle speaking. Thank you so much for sharing. I think, Mel, a point that you will bring up is just the importance of, making sure that, for lack of a better term, staff are, actually, I was going to say exposed, but it's about connecting with people with lived experience, to learn from that and improve processes and procedures and systems. And I mean, that's just good business design, really, isn't it? And customer service design. It's so important. I am very conscious of time, but I do want to ask one last question of you all, and that is, if you could, what simple actions can managers take to support employees with disability?
Ben speaking. I guess, it's difficult when it's such a broad question, but I think, just specifically, and one of the things we've spoke about is that, interview process and then onboarding, maybe giving someone that chance of a face-to-face interview, so if, yeah, you're aware that this person has responded maybe because you've put in the ad, feel free to don't let this stop you from applying, if you have a disability or some special requests, but then receiving that and going, all right, well, I'm just going to give this person an interview. Let's get them in and see what they're like. And yeah, just try and open that door up for them. Thanks.
Inclusion from the start starts at the job advertising, or even in writing the PD, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh speaking. Look, I think culture, workplace culture, and having an accepting culture, an understanding culture, and empathetic culture is very important. If you have a culture of this is how we do it, we're not willing to look outside the box, you're not going to attract candidates that are potentially really good for your business. We need to start looking at cultures. Okay, we're working with people here. It's not about the business so much. Let's work with the person and what they can offer, which is a lot more than you think.
Just speaking here, I think from an IA provider's point of view as well, one thing we work really closely with employers is during the recruitment stages, being able to utilize work trials or observational work experience for our candidates more so than the interview phase. Giving customers an opportunity to actually demonstrate their skills and show an employer what they are capable of can sometimes really benefit, more so than just sitting in a panel. And as much as they can prepare, it can still be daunting. And yeah, that's something that I find can be really inclusive and beneficial.
It's Danielle speaking. Yeah, that traditional recruitment process is so flawed. Yeah. So it's so good to hear that there are employers out there that are exploring different ways of recruiting and thinking outside the box to get the talent the talent that's right for their business. Because yeah, we could talk about that for a long time, I think. Mel, is there anything that you wanted to add before we wrap up? I know you've done a lot of speaking and sharing today.
I think also just highlighting the recruitment process, honestly, the biggest thing is just showing that psychological safety and that human approach. I cannot tell you how, when I first got made redundant myself and started the interview process, and I put in all this effort and went into an interview and, shared my whole life story, professional life story. And then when I asked an employer, so what makes you enjoy your job? And they shot down my question. It just was like the worst thing. You're so vulnerable when you go in and sharing about your life and your story. Be a little bit vulnerable back, treat people like human beings. Just that's for anyone really, but it's especially important when people have to go through extra barriers with their disability. So it's to be open and just to be human. That would be my 2 takeaways.
It's Danielle speaking. Yeah, Mel, I think be open and be human really sums up the conversations that have that we've been had today and really come through strongly. The importance of taking the lead from the person with disability and opening up your organisation to other ways of thinking and ways of working by working directly with people with disability. We've run 5 minutes over time. I'm sure we could all keep talking about these topics. There will always be so much work to do in this space. And I thank you all so much for being here today, but also for all of our panelists. Thank you so much for your insights, your learning and your sharing. We'll have our community of practices past community of practices online in the near future. So I will share that around once they're live. So you can continue to spread the good word about different ways of workplace inclusion and what that means and what that looks like. But thank you so much again. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.